Known as Super Black Bass Pocket 3 in Japan, fishing game fanatics Starfish finally managed to trick a Western publisher into releasing one of their series of bass-catching simulators in very late 1998, probably as a result of the surprisingly decent sales of Legend of the River King when that eventually got ported over. It's credited in part to one Hot Bee, a company whose own efforts, black bass lure fishing, went over like a wet fish 6 years previously. Perhaps not that strange. The first in the series, The Black Bass, was released by them on PC 8801 in 1984 under their original name Gamu. What is odd is that this company went bust in 1993, so it only had their name on it as a posthumous credit, a slightly odd thing to do seeing as how Starfish owned the rights now, but there it is. Along with your mentor, you'll enter into various tournaments to try and catch the most of the required fish. You sail your boat to a spot that matches what she recommends, somewhere with a lot of lily pads and drainage, for example, then choose whether to cast. She'll comment on how good your choice is and so on, then take you through the fishing procedure. You press A to start powering up the cast, then A again when the gauge is at the desired power. The line will be flung out and you can angle it left and right somewhat. If there are no silhouettes of fish nearby, it might be worth pulling it back in and trying a different aim. Note that if you get the line tangled or if it breaks, it'll take time to fix. This game works on an in-game timer whereby you start around at say 7 AM and only have until 3 PM to get your catch in and wade. If you come in after that time, you'll be disqualified, so spending 25 minutes untangling a line can be quite detrimental. Press B before you cast to take a look in your lure box. Depending on your location, the weather, the temperature and so on, the bass will be at different depths and doing different things, so you need to pick the right lure for the job or else it just won't bite. Luckily, the advisor is there to teach you this stuff. Different lures have individual ratings for weight, how deep they'll rest in the water, and how much they move around. If you're fishing in weeds, for example, something like a grub will work better than a worm. Each bait also has different stats relating to sturdiness or whatever. Fish can steal off with some easier than others. While the actual act of reeling in a fish is quite entertaining, for a little bit at least, actually getting to that point can be really tedious. Driving the boat, first off, is not at all fun. They turn irritatingly slowly and trundle along like you're rowing them yourself. You can upgrade, but what's the point? Driving the boat isn't the game, and it just gets in the way of the actual fishing. A more minor quibble is that there are too many button presses to get there. You can't always rely on the gizmos at your disposal. Anchoring up and then choosing cast to enter the water view does not guarantee that there'll be any catches there. +1 for realism, I guess. Fish can be easily scared away. If the lure lands too close to them and you haven't thumbed it in, which got a childish snicker from me, I'm not ashamed to admit. By pressing down as the lure is in the air, they'll often scarper, and you can also freak them out by reeling the line in too quick. You hold A to reel in, but can also press down to sink the lure. You're supposed to coax the line back in gradually, alternating between A and down. It's not easy to master at all, and of course the fish's natures are randomized to a degree. When a fish is hooked, pay attention to the two gauges at the bottom. The large one is how close the fish is to breaking the line. If it gets too high, make sure you rapidly tap A interspersed with the down presses. The other gauge is how quickly you're reeling in. Again, try to get the fish back to the boat, but don't be too hasty or you'll get tangled up. There was a whole shoal of fishing titles on the original Game Boy. There were two very similar entries called Super Black Bass 1 and 2, or Pocket or something or other, and there are more still to come on the colour. As it goes, this one's pretty good for what it is. I kind of feel like it's a niche type of game anyway, and it's just not something I'll ever be truly excited to play. The graphics are fine and easy to interpret. The silhouettes of the fish that grow depending on how close to the surface they are is a nice touch. Music is foregone in the fishing segments, which I much prefer, and the simulated ambience of birds chirping and splashing sounds is a much nicer replacement. Moreover, you can get into the game easily, even if it's all alien to you, and there's plenty to learn as it goes on. I went fishing a grand total of 1 time in my youth, and I didn't get the appeal of it back then. As an adult, I'm not yet sick of my family enough to entertain the idea, and I don't know how often I'd be keen to revisit video games based on it, were I not reviewing every one of these bloody things. Fishing to me seems a surefire way for this idiot to drink too much and fall in a lake. Haven't managed that in-game yet, but I'm still trying.